Unraveling the myth, Nero and the Great Fire of Rome. Rome burns. The fire devours the city's neighborhoods. Panic spreads and screams fill the air. Amid the disaster, one question has survived the test of time. Was Emperor Nero really playing his lyre as the city was consumed by flames? Or was it all a big lie? Today we travel to 1st century Rome to discover the truth behind one of the most famous myths in history. To understand the story of the fire, we must first know Nero. He ruled Rome from 54 AD to 68 AD and saw himself as not only but a great artist. He was passionate about music, theater, and poetry, something that many Romans considered unworthy of a ruler. While previous emperors conquered lands, Nero conquered scenes. But what does his love of art have to do with the Great Fire of Rome? This is where things get interesting. On the night of July 18th, 64, a fire broke out in the poorest neighborhoods of Rome. Within hours, the flames spread uncontrollably, destroying temples, houses, and markets. Rome, the jewel of the ancient world, was being consumed before the terrified eyes of its inhabitants. But where was Nero? This is where the myth begins to form. Some sources claim that Nero was not in Rome when the fire started, but at his villa in Antium, several kilometers away. It is said that when he received the news, he immediately returned and helped coordinate the rescue efforts. But then where does the idea come from that he played the lyre while the city burned? The myth of Nero playing the lyre while Rome burned comes from historians such as Tacitus, Suetonius, and Cassius Dion, who wrote about him years after his death. Tacitus mentions that according to rumors, Nero watched the fire from his palace and recited a poem about the fall of Troy. But there is no evidence that he actually played the lyre at that time. The image of the emperor singing while Rome burned may have been exaggerated, or even invented by his enemies. Nero had a problem. People were looking for someone to blame, and instead of taking responsibility, he found a convenient enemy: Christians. At that time, Christianity was a minority religion and unknown to the majority of Romans. Nero accused them of starting the fire and unleashed one of the first major persecutions against them, taking them to the arena to be executed. But historians agree that it was just an excuse. While Rome burned, another story was ignited, that of Nero's ambition. Shortly after the fire, construction began on his Domus Aurea, the gigantic golden palace with gardens, lakes, and colossal statues. This led many to suspect that he had started the fire himself to clear the area and build his masterpiece. But was it really like that, or just another slander from his enemies? Years later, Nero fell from grace. Accused of tyranny and abandonment of the empire, the Senate declared him a public enemy. He fled and, cornered, decided to end his own life. His last words reflect his obsession: "What artist dies with me?" Thus ended the story of Rome's most theatrical emperor. The myth of Nero and his lyre has endured for centuries. But was he really a monster or just the villain the story needed? The answer continues to burn in time.